Let's talk about Monaco, because what went down on those narrow streets wasn't just another Grand Prix. It was a high-stakes reality check, and Lewis Hamilton, he wasn't just off the pace. He was a minute behind the fight. A minute at a circuit he practically owns. Let that sink in. Sky F1's Bernie Collins, someone who knows what performance looks like from her time at McLaren and Aston Martin, was stunned by what she saw. Hamilton, the seven-time world champion, couldn't stay with the leaders, not even close. By the time Oscar Piastri boxed for fresh tires, Lewis had dropped so far back that Piastri came out ahead. That's not strategy, that's damage control. Now here's where it gets spicy. Collins believes this isn't just a Mercedes problem. No, it's more worrying for Ferrari. Why? Because Hamilton looked like the confident driver coming into Monaco, the one who supposedly had the edge, and yet Leclerc, at his cursed home race, delivered Ferrari's best result of the season, P2. While Hamilton, he limped in fifth. If Hamilton's performance nosedived despite feeling confident and loving the track, what does that say about Ferrari's real pace ceiling? Now let's talk about that radio drama. Hamilton and his race engineer, Riccardo Adami, were not singing in harmony. There was miscommunication, silence, and a very awkward moment where Hamilton straight up asked, "Are you upset with me or something?" Imagine being in a 200-mile-per-hour chess match, and your strategist ghosts you mid-game. Oh, and that cryptic line from Adami before the pit stop, "This is our race." Hamilton misunderstood it, and frankly, so did we. Was it code for box now, a motivational line? Or was Ferrari trying to bluff someone else and forgot to let Lewis in on the plan? This isn't just bad communication. It smells like an internal systems failure, and nobody's talking about it loud enough. Let's be brutally honest. If Monaco was a litmus test, Ferrari didn't just misread it. They might be running an entirely different experiment, one where they still think Hamilton is their golden ticket in 2025. But here's the inconvenient truth. The man they're betting on just got outclassed on a track tailor-made for his style, and no amount of PR gloss can cover that. Ferrari may have celebrated Leclerc's P2, but the real story is the five-time Monaco master trailing over half a minute behind Max Verstappen. That's not just a gap, it's a gulf. There's tension in the air ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix, and it's not just the Catalan heat. We're about to see the FIA drop the hammer on Flexi-Wings, and believe me, this isn't just a technical directive. It's a seismic test of truth for every team on the grid. And guess who's watching Ferrari like a hawk? None other than Toto Wolff himself. Let's decode Toto for a second. When the Mercedes boss says Ferrari was probably the most conservative on Flexi-Wings, what he's really saying is, they've been playing it clean, and we haven't. This rule change could flip the pecking order, and Ferrari might finally stop dragging their feet and start dragging others into the mud. Wolff's careful language, that's not caution, that's awareness. He knows Barcelona is the kind of track where technical directives show up on the stopwatch, and if his team's pace disappears, we'll know exactly why. Fred Vasseur isn't playing coy, he's hedging. He knows this Flexi-Wing directive could be the big break Ferrari's been praying for, but he's smart enough not to gloat. Publicly, he's talking about the whole grid. Privately, he's betting big on Barcelona. He called it a game changer. Let me translate. Ferrari thinks they're about to uncover half a second they didn't know they had. Why else would they have been working on it for ages? That's not preparation, that's anticipation. Teams don't spend months on something unless they know it's going to shake the field. And here's the kicker. Ferrari is 177 points behind McLaren in the championship. They're not here to nibble. They need a transformation. This is their window. Let's not sugarcoat it. Charles Leclerc is flying. 2 podiums already, and his confidence is humming at the right frequency. The car is starting to talk his language. Hamilton, he's trying, but the numbers don't lie. Qualifying isn't his weapon anymore. His edge is fading. And yeah, no one wants to say it out loud, but he's not the youngest wolf in the pack anymore. Even Nick Heidfeld said the quiet part out loud. This isn't the same Lewis we saw 5 or 10 years ago. There's a visible gap between him and Leclerc, and not just on the stopwatch. Let's cut through the smoke. Lewis Hamilton is 40, and while that number shouldn't define a champion, it does mean something in Formula One, where reflexes are razor-sharp and every 1/10 of a second is a career. Nick Heidfeld said what most are too polite or too scared to say out loud. The Lewis Hamilton we're watching today isn't the same driver we saw 5 or 10 years ago. And no, it's not just about the car. Hamilton's move to Ferrari was meant to be iconic, a late-career renaissance. But right now, it's more of a case study in how even the best drivers struggle to start over. He's won 1 sprint, yes, in China. But over full race weekends, he's trailing Leclerc. Badly, 7-1 in qualifying. And only once has he finished ahead of Charles in a Grand Prix. Let's be honest, when you're brought in as the guy, and the guy already on the team keeps beating you, that's a problem. Not just for the team, but for the myth of Hamilton's invincibility. And then there's the awkward radio energy with Riccardo Adami. Miscommunications, silence, tension. Sounds familiar. That's not teething problems, that's cultural shock. Heidfeld didn't hold back. He's no longer the youngest, a sentence that hits harder in F1 than it would in any other sport. Because this is the one place where age does matter. If Hamilton were 28, every slump would be part of the process. At 40, it's a narrative, a risk Ferrari chose, a risk they knew they were taking. And while the comparisons to Michael Schumacher's return at Mercedes were floated, Heidfeld shut that down. Schumacher had a gap. Hamilton's been on the throttle non-stop, but that doesn't mean it's easier. In fact, it might be harder. Why? Because you're not just fighting the car, you're fighting expectations built on your own legacy. This is the core truth nobody likes to admit. Hamilton was perfectly integrated at Mercedes. He was Mercedes. Now, he's just another driver trying to sync with an entirely new system, new engineers, new chassis, new politics. And Heidfeld nailed it. The older you get, the harder it is to make a fresh start. That's not opinion, that's human nature. It's neurological, physiological, psychological, and it shows. Monaco proved it again. Leclerc nearly took pole. Hamilton qualified P4, then dropped to P7 with a penalty, only recovering to P5. He said, "Last week was good. This week, not so great." It's not bad, but it's not legacy-defining either. A storm is brewing in Barcelona, not weather, regulation. And Ferrari? They might be the only team that's actually ready for it. Fred Vasseur isn't mincing words anymore. The new front-wing directive, hitting at the Spanish Grand Prix, he's calling it what it is, a game changer. And if you listen carefully, even Charles Leclerc is dropping hints, because the paddock is buzzing, and some teams are sweating more than others. This isn't some minor technical footnote. TD018 is surgical, a direct strike at the black magic of Flexi-Wings, specifically the front wing. And if you're not familiar with the role that part plays, let me spell it out. It's the air traffic controller of the car. It dictates everything that happens behind it, And now, every team has to change theirs. Mid-season. Ferrari says they've been working on it for ages. That's not preparation, that's premonition. The kind of move you make when you know what's coming and suspect others might not survive it. Let's talk about the whispers. Charles Leclerc, usually the PR darling, let one slip to Sky F1. Some people will be more affected than others. That's a diplomatic way of saying some teams have been pushing Flexi-Wing designs way past the limits, and now the FIA's caught up. Ferrari, on the other hand, Leclerc doesn't expect much change on their side. Translation: we've been playing it safe. Others have been playing with fire. If true, this directive won't just rebalance the grid, it could expose certain teams. And if McLaren suddenly loses 0.2 a lap, don't say Leclerc didn't warn us. Let's be clear, Ferrari hasn't won a single race in 2025. They've got one podium in a full GP. They are desperate for a breakthrough. So when Fred Vasseur says, "We'll be focused on this for better exploitation," you better believe they're all in. He sees this as the moment, not just to close the gap to McLaren, but to change the conversation. Because right now, they're not in the title fight. But this directive, it's the lever, the hidden hand. And if Ferrari pulls it right, they might just launch a comeback nobody saw coming, except the ones who've been quietly waiting for this moment since January.